Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Planning Committee, Tuesday, the 3rd of March 2026. First item on business tonight. Do we have any apologies? I've got one apology from Councillor Crisp, and I believe is substituted by Councillor Heatham. Welcome, Councillor Heatham. Do we have any other apologies? No. That's good. A bit of housekeeping before we start. I'm not been made aware of any fire drills this evening, but if one does chance to happen, and please make your way to the front of the building in front of the statue in an orderly, quiet and calm fashion. Item 2 on the agenda this evening are declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest on the agenda this evening? And that's a negative from members. Thank you. Moving on to item 3 of the agenda, our minutes of the previous meeting that were held the 3rd of February 2026. Are we content to receive that as a true and accurate record of proceedings? Can I see a show of hands, please, in support of that? Thank you. That item is passed. On to the first substantive item on the agenda this evening. Application for major development land between Apedale Road and Palatine Drive. Over to officers.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the application seeks planning permission to vary condition 2 of an existing planning permission for 330 dwellings at land at Apedale Road. So the variation to the approved plans would allow for the substitution of 27 houses with a new design type. So the site's located to the south of Apedale Road. Within this site plan, there are 27 properties highlighted in blue, which I appreciate might be difficult to see, which would be the subject of the design change. They're essentially pepper potted around the application site. So this drawing shows the existing house design, which has already been approved. So it's essentially a detached 3-bedroom property with a traditional design character. And these drawings show the revised type of property, which is to replace them. So it's also a 3-bed property, has a traditional 2-storey red brick design. The footprint is essentially the same as the original design, but the room layout is slightly altered. So the downstairs toilet has been moved to the front porch area, where previously it was attached to the kitchen room. So given that the overall height and scale of the new property type is similar to that which it seeks to replace, there is not considered to be any additional impact on the wider landscape or townscape. We've not received any objections from consultees or residents, and therefore the application is recommended for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Over to you, members. There is no speakers this evening, so it's now over to you. Councillor Fear to kick us off.
Thank you. I don't need this within this room, but outside this thing is as dead as a doornail, so I simply can't use it. Thank you very much, Councillor Holland. So, having escaped that attempt at censorship, looking at this, as far as I can see, that there's no major change here. The pepper potting intrigues me a little bit, but I'm happy to move the recommendation as printed.
Thank you, Councillor Fear. Any other members wishing to speak? Thank you, Councillor. Had it formally proposed, seconded. In the absence of any more speakers, can I see a show of hands, please, in support of the recommendation? Thank you. That item is quite clearly passed and is unanimously voted on. Thank you. Brings us on to item 5 of the agenda, application for minor development, land at Vernon Avenue, Audley. It's you, Rachel. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Chair. So the application seeks permission in principle for the erection of between 3 and 6 dwellings on a parcel of land off Vernon Avenue in Audley. The site is directly adjacent to the village envelope of Audley, located within the Greenbelt and an area of landscape enhancement. So you can see the site here on the screen. It's bounded by Vernon Avenue there, and it's not shown on here, but sorry, I was just trying to enlarge it a bit. Nantwich Road is up to the north, and Vernon Avenue across the south here. So this that you can see here hatched isn't the application site. It's showing what is an allocation or a draft allocation in the emerging local plan for 33 dwellings. So this is the site here, edged in red. So the buildings here, the former farm buildings there, they have planning permission for conversion to dwellings. And yeah, this is the site here, just accessed off, or would be accessed off Vernon Avenue. So with regard to applications for permission in principle, only the matter of the location of the development and the principle of the development can be considered. And if permission is granted, then a second application referred to as a technical details consent would need to be submitted, which would address site-specific details. Whilst the site is located within the open countryside, consideration must be given to the proximity of the site to Audley, which represents a sustainable rural location for new housing due to the level of services and facilities. Occupants of the site would only have to walk a short distance along existing footpaths to access those services and facilities, all of which are considered to be sufficient to serve the day-to-day needs of the potential occupants. Sufficient access to public transport links is also available. So as referred to previously, just to note that the application site sits directly adjacent to site allocation AB 15 of the draft local plan for residential development. So in the absence of a 5-year supply of deliverable housing sites, the development of 3 to 6 dwellings would make a small contribution to the borough's housing supply. And based on the location of the site, the development is considered to be within a sustainable location. The applicant has submitted supporting information to seek to demonstrate that the site comprises grey belt land. Grey belt is defined as land in the green belt that does not strongly contribute to any of the purposes A, B or D in paragraph 143 of the NPPF. These 3 criteria are A, to check the unrestricted sprawl of large built-up areas, B, to prevent neighbouring towns merging, and D, to preserve the setting and special character of historic towns. So as you can see, the application is, or the application site, sorry, is surrounded by development, and it's classified as a village rather than a town. So therefore it's not considered to make a significant contribution to any of those 3 purposes, A, B or D, set out previously. There is a demonstrable need for the development given the absence of a 5-year housing land supply, and the site is located in a sustainable location. So in light of these conclusions, the proposal comprises appropriate development in the Greenbelt, and the principle of development is considered to be acceptable. Just before handing over to the debate, just to show a couple of photographs, 3 photographs taken from Vernon Avenue. So you can see here the barns that were referred to that have got permission for conversion, and then that's looking back up from the end of Vernon Avenue to towards the site allocation. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Rachel, and good to see that we've got yet another one of these applications coming before us. There's no speakers on this item on the agenda. I am a little bit disappointed that we haven't got the councillor here in person that called in this application for the committee. I think this should be really a requirement personally, that if a councillor calls it in, they have the good grace to actually come and argue the case with us, because there's a lot of work that goes on in the background to bring it here, and to just to hear it on the strength of somebody calling it in without any proper arguments, I think is disappointing. I think it should be discouraged really going forward. So that being said, I'll open up now to the floor for debate. Over to you, councillors.
Thank you. Well, it does seem a bit like Groundhog Day over and over again here, doesn't it? I'm interested in page 16, where officers have said that if there is an up-to-date neighbourhood plan, permission should not usually be granted. But I know I've only been on the committee for 18 months, but it seems like in Newcastle, it is usually granted. So I'd like to ask about that clause there, should not usually be granted. So even though I've voted against these applications, they have been passed. So I just want to ask about that.
Whereabouts is that? I've not got the
Page 16 in the third from last paragraph. Under is principle of development acceptable?
yeah. So that's stating what's referred to in paragraph 12 of the NPPF, as you've said, where it conflicts with up-to-date development plan. But as we debated at length at the last planning committee, and as is set out in this agenda report, we don't have an up-to-date development plan, because the policies of both the local plan and the core spatial strategy have been concluded by inspectors at a number of appeals to be out of date. And the other part of the development plan, the neighbourhood plan, which was the main issue that was discussed that we sought legal advice on, is also out of date in respect of the policies that relate to the provision of housing. So therefore, that doesn't apply, paragraph 12, because we don't have an up-to-date development plan.
I was on the understanding that if it isn't up to date, you still have to take weight. It is up to date, isn't it, Audley's plan? It's just that you said it didn't have housing supply allocation specification.
No, it's been concluded in many officers' reports that have come before this committee that it's out of date in respect of the policies that relate to the provision of housing. So, which was, as I say, which was what was discussed last time. And so we don't have an up-to-date development plan.
But there have been some legal cases now, haven't there? One in East Staffordshire and one in Kent, where either the local authority's decision on this has been taken further, or the appeals, the planning inspectorate, have been taken to the High Court on this. And on those cases, the fact that the neighbourhood plan was in place and should be upheld before tilted balance is even considered.
Well, obviously, you've only just referred those two cases to me, and I'm not able to comment on them off the top of my head. So, but certainly our position, and that we have had upheld at a number of appeal decisions, and I'm not aware of the cases that you're talking about, have all concluded that where it's all to do with there being a basket of policies, and that is made up of the local plan, the core spatial strategy and the neighbourhood plan. And because the neighbourhood plan was based on the policies within the core spatial strategy and the local plan, and those documents have been concluded to be out of date, that overall basket of policies is considered to be out of date. And that's the advice that we sought legal advice on a couple of years ago, I think, and we've been consistently giving that advice in all of our reports, and we've not been made aware of the cases that you're referring to give a different view.
Thank you, Rachel. I agree. You have given consistent advice. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Chairman. Difficult, obviously, not to compare this application with the ones that were discussed last month, but it seems to me really that one important difference is the fact that this application is adjoining what could be a fairly significant development already indicated in our own emerging local plan. And what came across from the plan that's on the board at the moment is it already looks to me to be quite built up, Chairman. There are already houses there. We've got the possibility, I think, of another 33 should the local plan be adopted and permission be given. And then we've got this other 3 to 6. And I wondered whether, in the context of that particular location, are we actually looking at perhaps overdevelopment? And the other question I've got is, what weight should the committee give when making a decision to the fact that there's an adjoining site that has already been sort of earmarked for housing, and a fairly significant number of houses?
Well, in terms of your first point about overdevelopment, we're not able to look at that as part of this application. We're looking solely at the principle of development, as we've said many times in relation to these applications for permission in principle. We are only looking at the principle of development. So is this location suitable in terms of sustainability, access to shops and services? Is it suitable for residential development? So the issue of whether it's overdevelopment and whether there would be any adverse impact on the character and appearance of the area through your concerns about it being overdevelopment would be considered at the subsequent application stage, the technical detail stage. And in terms of the weight to be given to the emerging local plan and that draft allocation, I would say that you need to be giving probably moderate to significant weight to that now because of the very advanced stage that the local plan is at. And although there have been some minor modifications proposed to the wording of the policy, the actual allocation itself is likely to remain. So yes, I think it should be given moderate to significant weight. But in terms of whether these additional 3 to 6 houses would result in overdevelopment when we're already talking about 33, firstly, it's not something that we can consider, as I've already said. But if we were to be considering, I think those additional 3 to 6 houses in this location where there is where it's reasonably high density development surrounding the site, in my view, would be likely to be appropriate. But as I said, it's not something that we're considering at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Councillor Fear.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I share your disappointment that the councillor who's called this in isn't here tonight. I mean, I would like to have seen an argument constructed around the impact of the development on the green belt and the application of grey belt policy. I mean, at least that's focused on what is in front of us this evening. And again, I hear what Councillor Gorton says, but I also hear what our officer says, and I'm afraid that the legislation introduced by the current government means that we have effectively one thing to think about, which is paragraph 143, my understanding of the MPPF. And of course, very strategically, the government removed section C of that, intrusion into the countryside. So we're left with the three things that the officer put in front of us. Now, the only one of those, it seems to me, that would work in any meaningful sense, I think, yeah, and I'm doing this from memory, so correct me if I've got the wrong letter, it would be A, the uncontrolled sprawl of a large built-up area. Would I be correct, however, in saying, and I look to our officer's advice here, that orderly could not be defined as a large built-up area because it's classed as a village and not a town? Is it based on, and you know, is the classification based on population size? Is it based on definition? Because as far as I can see, if we wanted to object to this application at this stage, and again, I take what our officer says that there will be a much more detailed stage to follow, I can't see any other way of doing this apart from that particular subsection of this section of the MPPF.
Yes, that's correct. You did refer to the right criterion, which is A, the unrestricted sprawl. And yeah, it would not be possible to conclude that Audley is a large built-up area. And then even if it was to be concluded that it was, it would be difficult to say that this would cause the unrestricted sprawl because there is development immediately to the south, to the north, and to the east of the site. So yeah, it in our view, it doesn't meet that criteria, no.
Have a follow-up, Councillor Fee?
No, Mr. Chairman, I take no pleasure in the fact that the officer has confirmed my thoughts. I don't like this sort of application, but they have been made possible, and this committee is faced with them.
Thank you. Councillor Gorton, do you wish to come back now?
Yeah, I mean, I note that we haven't had a speaker in support of the application, and there's a reference in the report to the applicant has submitted supporting information to seek to demonstrate that the proposal complies with criterion which relates to the utilisation of grey bell. I was quite interested, what supporting information has the applicant put forward? And is that something really that the committee should be aware of, as we haven't had a supporting speaker in favour of the application?
Well, it's set out within the application documents which are available to view on public access, but it's within their supporting statements, and that they've just looked at each of those three criteria and set out why they don't consider that there's an issue, and they've said the sort of things that we're saying as officers. So there's no, when I say supporting information, it's just their view on why it doesn't meet those criteria.
You accept their case?
Yeah, because we agree with the case that they've made for the reasons set out in the report.
Thank you.
Councillor John Williams.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this is a little bite, this is, of a development, as has been said by the officer next door to proposed housing development. But on the other side, there's a great wave of open space. We run along Lantry to the left, as we look at the plans. To the left of the plans, it's all open agricultural land. So this is just a little bite of, again, a piece of good greenfield site. But this moment in time through the process, is it appropriate to talk about the amount of properties on that site? How big is the site? What is the policy now on, I do forget, Mr. Chairman, what's the policy now on the hectare, how many properties per hectare, and how many houses are proposed here, 6 and 3, on the size of the property. So can we discuss this moment in the process?
We can't, I'm afraid, because again, that's part of the detailed matters that would be considered at the technical details application stage. So the size of the dwellings, the resultant density of the development on that site, whether that density is in keeping with the density of developments in the area, or whether it's in keeping with the character of the countryside, all of those things are for future consideration. All we're looking at now is this location appropriate for residential development?
Is the council wishing to speak this item? Any councillor wishing to make a proposal? Councillor Fear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I look around the room and I think the reluctance at this point of my colleagues to do anything shows the general distaste this committee has for this style of application. Nevertheless, it is perfectly legal way of going about things, and we do need to have a vote. Having heard our officer, I cannot see, given our hands are so firmly tied by national legislation, that we can do anything other than accept this in principle. And having said that, I look forward to the technical details debate, where we can examine quite a lot of things that have been mentioned by colleagues this evening, and which we are excluded, quite deliberately excluded from taking at this time. So with very great reluctance, and as I say, with looking forward to a much better and more rounded debate, I will move that we accept our officer's recommendation, because I cannot see how we can construct an argument otherwise.
Thank you, Councillor Fear. And I agree with you in terms of consistency of approach. We have no choice. Our hands are tied, and I don't see a plethora of people coming forward to second this. So I'll take your proposal, Councillor Fear, and I will happily, not happily, but I will second it from the chair in the way to move this forward. Is there any counter proposals? No, in which case we'll take a vote on this, please. All those in favour of the recommendations set out in the report? Those against? 3. Any abstentions? 1 abstain for Councillor Dean. Thank you. That item is passed. Brings us on to item 6 of the agenda. This is public realm and car park to east and west of King Street, including former garage King Street, Kidsgrove. Been made aware since the publication of the main agenda report that the applicant has requested to make amendments to the submitted drawing following the development of some technical design issues. Therefore, the recommendation is that officers recommend that this application is deferred to enable the applicant to submit amended plans. Councillor Fear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the past, this committee has always sought for extra information. It would seem churlish, given our correct policy, in my opinion, the colleagues have held, not to go with our officer's recommendation, because that will allow us to have extra information in terms of correct drawings. So I think it's inevitable that this should be deferred.
It will indeed, Councillor Fear. Do I see a seconder? Councillor Burnett Faulkner. Seconded. Can I see a show of hands in support of that recommendation, please? And that's unanimously carried. The item is now deferred. Brings us to agenda item 7, an old favourite, 5 Boggs Cottages, Keele. Do we have any additional information? Are councillors content to receive the information supplied in the agenda? If they are, please can I see a show of hands, please, in support of this, and also to keep it on the agenda going forward. Thank you. That item is passed. Any urgent business, Chair? Any urgent business? I haven't been made of any urgent business this evening. So on that note, no other further business is concluded. So I will now bring the meeting to a close. Thank you for your indulgence, members, and have a safe journey. And thank you for our officers for your help and assistance tonight, and those for joining us online too.